An elderly farmer's quiet life takes a dramatic turn when he discovers 3 abandoned babies near his field one morning. Their fragile cries pierce his solitude, and he's thrust into a heartwarming yet mysterious journey that changes everything he thought he knew about love and purpose. As the farmer cares for the infants, questions about their origins linger. Who left them on his land, and why? With his small-town community rallying around him, he finds unexpected joy and fulfillment in nurturing the little lives that have reignited his own. This tale of compassion, resilience, and the transformative power of love proves that sometimes life's greatest blessings come when you least expect them. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the vast fields of Mr. Henry Grayson's farm. At 75, Henry had grown accustomed to the quiet life, with his days marked by the rhythmic tasks of tending to his crops and caring for his animals. His land was expansive, surrounded by dense woods that separated his property from the neighboring town. It was a sanctuary for Henry, a place where he could forget the heartaches of the past and embrace the solitude. As he stepped out of his farmhouse that morning, a peculiar sound caught his attention. It wasn't the usual rustle of leaves or chirping of birds. It was faint at first, a soft, high-pitched cry, almost lost in the gentle breeze. He paused, his weathered hands gripping his walking stick. The sound grew louder, unmistakable now. It was the cry of a baby. Confused and alarmed, Henry quickened his pace toward the sound, his boots crunching against the gravel path. The cries led him to the edge of his field, near an old oak tree that stood tall like a sentinel. As he approached, his heart sank at the sight before him, a battered basket, its contents stirring slightly. Peering inside, he was met with 3 tiny faces, 3 babies, wrapped in thin, worn blankets. Their cries were weak but insistent, their little fists flailing. Henry's heart raced. Who could have left these babies here? And why? He crouched down, his old knees protesting, and gently picked up the basket. The babies were so small, their faces pale and innocent. They looked up at him with wide, teary eyes. And in that moment, Henry felt a wave of emotions he hadn't experienced in years. Carefully, he carried the basket back to his farmhouse, his mind racing with questions. Inside, he placed the basket on the kitchen table and began inspecting the babies. There were no notes, no identifying marks, nothing to indicate who they were or where they came from. The only clue was a faint scent of perfume lingering on their blankets, hinting at the presence of someone who had cared for them briefly. Henry wasn't prepared for this. He had no experience with babies, no supplies to care for them. His wife, Eleanor, had passed away years ago, and they had never been blessed with children. But as he looked at the 3 helpless infants before him, he knew he couldn't turn away. He couldn't leave them to their fate. Determined, Henry sprang into action. He rummaged through his pantry and found a bottle of milk, heating it on the stove to make it lukewarm. Using a clean cloth, he fashioned makeshift bottles to feed the babies. His hands trembled as he fed them, their cries quieting as they drank. It was a clumsy effort, but it worked. Once they were fed, he carefully cleaned them up, using soft towels and warm water. The day passed in a blur, as Henry adjusted to his unexpected role as a caretaker. He made a call to the local authorities, explaining the situation. They assured him they would investigate, but warned it might take time. In the meantime, the babies were his responsibility. Word spread quickly in the small town about the abandoned babies on Henry's farm. Neighbors and old friends came by, bringing supplies and offering help. Mrs. Cartwright, who ran the town's general store, brought diapers and formula. "Bless your heart, Henry," she said, her eyes misty. Not everyone would step up like this. Henry's once quiet farmhouse was now filled with life. The babies, whom he began calling Lily, Jack, and Rose, brought a new energy to his days. Their cries, laughter, and tiny movements transformed his home, filling the void that had long haunted him. He found himself singing lullabies he barely remembered, rocking them to sleep in an old chair that had belonged to his wife. As the days turned into weeks, Henry grew attached to the babies. He marveled at their tiny fingers and toes, their curious gazes as they began to recognize him. He discovered a side of himself he didn't know existed, a nurturing, protective instinct that made him determined to give them the love they deserved. But questions about their origin lingered. Who had abandoned them? Why on his farm? One day, while cleaning the basket they had been left in, Henry noticed something he had missed before a faint engraving on the underside of the handle. It was a single word: hope. The discovery deepened the mystery, but also gave Henry a sense of purpose. He began to view the babies not as a burden but as a gift, a chance to bring hope and love into the world. The local community rallied around Henry, inspired by his selflessness. The town organized a fundraiser to help him with the costs of caring for the babies. Strangers donated clothes, toys, and money, moved by the story of the elderly farmer who had taken in 3 abandoned children. Despite the challenges, Henry found joy in the simplest moments: Lily's first smile, Jack's determined attempts to roll over, Rose's soft coos as she held his finger. They gave him a reason to wake up every morning, a sense of purpose that had been missing for so long. Months passed, and the investigation into the baby's abandonment yielded little progress. The authorities speculated that the mother might have been in dire circumstances, unable to care for them, but desperate to leave them somewhere safe. Henry couldn't imagine the pain she must have felt, but he was grateful she had chosen his farm. As the seasons changed, so did Henry's bond with the babies. They were no longer just 3 infants he had found, they were his family. He couldn't imagine life without them. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, Henry sat on his porch with the babies in his arms. He gazed out at the horizon, the golden light casting a warm glow over the land. He thought of Eleanor, of how much she would have loved these children. "You'd be proud of me, Ellie," he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "They've given me a reason to keep going." The babies, now healthy and thriving, had brought a sense of renewal to Henry's life. They had turned his quiet farm into a haven of laughter and love, reminding him that even in the darkest times, hope could bloom in the most unexpected places. Henry's story became a symbol of compassion and resilience in the town. People marveled at his dedication, his willingness to embrace the unknown and give his heart to 3 little lives that had been left in his care. And as the years went by, the bond between Henry and the children only grew stronger. Though he never learned the full story of their origin, Henry found peace in the life they built together. The farm became a place of joy and discovery, a testament to the power of love and the enduring strength of the human spirit. In the end, it wasn't just the babies who had been saved, it was Henry too, his life forever changed by the simple, profound act of opening his heart to those in need.